So in reference to our quote of EE units, we again find a metaphysical underlying reality that formed it. We are told that these EE units are part of this, both within the physical system as matter, and in other systems of reality as their form of matter. I want to express here the difference. In this physical universe, what we consider as, quote, matter, seems relatively permanent, but form is not. Our matter does change form, constantly, and without this capability to change form, life would be impossible. You could not take one breath of gaseous oxygen without it changing form to keep you alive. Now that we have examined more about these EE units, let us return to the concept and properties of coordinate points. Seth speaks, session 525. Quote, "The intensity of a feeling or a thought or a mental image is, therefore, the important element in determining its subsequent physical materialization. The intensity is the core about which the electromagnetic energy units form. In your terms, the more intense the core, the sooner the physical materialization. This would apply whether the mental image was a fearful one or a joyful one. Now there is a very important problem here. If your turn of mind is highly intense and you think in a vivid mental and emotional images, these will be swiftly formed into physical events. If you are also of a highly pessimistic nature, given to thoughts and feelings of potential disaster, then these thoughts will be quite faithfully reproduced in experience. The more intense your imagination and inner experience, therefore, the more important it is that you realize the methods by which this inner experience becomes physically real. Your thoughts and emotions begin their journey into physical actualization at the moment of conception." Break. End quote. As we noted in our experiment with action and our blue ball, I included events as having a metaphysical beginning. Here we can see that aspect come out even more. If we see an event in our mind, we may find it in our physical universe if the intensity was strong enough. More to the point, we often do picture an event before it happens by playing scenarios out in our mind of what we expect to happen. I did not use the word want, because it is often that we project our beliefs into our mental images. Why don't all our images and thoughts become real then? For instance, they may not be of the intensity to come through. We may also create thoughts that oppose or distort the other thoughts. We do this often with doubts, indecisions, or just plain daydreaming. In almost all situations of any events here in the physical world, we involve others, so, en masse, we have other thoughts to add to the mix. As I have said before, that it is of all consciousness that produce this physical universe, and we are not the only ones with the thought license. Considering the human consciousness alone, we have others that may be involved in the event that have a different set of thoughts about any certain outcome. If thoughts group, as we suspect from our theory, then like thoughts would gain intensity, but also blend. There, the outcome in physical reality may be a close version of the thought or emotion that created it. These ideas also hold for the creation of an object. You have an intense imagination of our blue ball, so much so that you feel that you want one. Your emotional energy gets a burst from this desire and starts to propel it into physical matter. Because of the nature of the physical universe and the laws of that universe that we have agreed upon, such as root assumptions, the ball does not just pop into existence in front of us. Due to the nature of this universe, we make the ball out of matter, but it is still formed by our idea. In a dream, it may suddenly appear in front of us. Why not here, if what has been implied is true? The main root assumptions of our reality are time and space, though we do also agree on some others such as, quote, cause and effect, end quote, and opposites, that deal with our human physical focus of consciousness. It may then take time for the ball to form within the physical system. If your desire is great enough, you have energy you yourself put into creating the object. We go out, get the material, and form it. But from what many have discovered is that the ball may be made by someone else and over time come into our possession. In this case, it may not be the exact object we envision because it was produced with somebody else's thoughts of the object, yet it will still exist for us and we will have it. There is more to what is being said than just this surface level of thoughts or emotions to objects or events. Some like to think of metaphysics as the magical approach to materialization, and it does in a sense work that way. What would your world be like without the thoughts and ideas that have been manifested? In other words, no man-made objects. Even then, thoughts would have to exist for any life that had to move to find food, eat, get out of the rain, or anything else we have to do physically. The body itself is being created to a large measure by our thoughts, and if you do not believe this, try to continue to create it without eating. All of these aspects of metaphysical materialization are very important for the reality we have. I would like to take some of these concepts down to the physical and quantum physics level. If you have trouble imagining these EE units condensing into matter, we will take a closer look at matter. In order to look at matter, we receive electromagnetic waves that are bounced off of it or emitted by it. This all brings us back to our chapter on the physical apparatus by which we perceive the universe through in the first place. Now at this, and the quantum level, matter is a very precarious thing. As scientists try to understand what matter is made of, we do so by finding its parts. With each theory, science goes smaller and smaller. But there is a limit to what we can observe through real experimentation as detection of these smaller particles becomes impossible. It is also evident that as we enter the quantum field, the normal laws of larger physics seems to break down. There is what is considered a wave-particle duality. In it, a particle does not seem to act like a particle until it is observed. This is referred to as the collapse of the wave function. In the string theory, the elemental particles we observe in particle accelerations could be thought of as the, quote, vibrating strings, end quote, or excitation modes of elementary strings. The average size of a string should be somewhere near the length scale of quantum gravity, called the Planck length, which is about 10 to the negative 33 centimeters. In order to include fermions in the string theory, there must be a special kind of symmetry called supersymmetry, which means for every boson, particle that transmits a force, there is a corresponding fermion, particle that makes up matter. So, supersymmetry relates the particles that transmit force to the particles that make up matter. Add to this the concept that the strings are vibrating in more than just the dimensions of space and time that are within the physical universe, and you can see how much fun this theory gets. Yet, there are reasons for scientists to think this way and to come up with these theories. That is, they fit the mathematical model that the physical universe seems to be displaying at this level. There are some things I wish to point out that relate to what Seth is saying, though he does not use the term strings. Scientists only like to think of these, quote, whatevers, as strings because they follow some of the laws that are similar to string vibrations. It is for the sake of the model and understanding an easy picture. The main point is that they are vibrating. But what is it that is vibrating? If we take the scale of these things to be the smallest possible, then they cannot be made up yet of other smaller units. Pure energy is one answer that comes up, but this leaves us still with the question of what is this energy? I would propose this to be something akin to the EE units. Later, Seth brings up the idea on consciousness units as well. So these are things to keep in mind, and to what may be the basic building blocks of the physical universe. We have read that matter is created by these EE units and that they are created as an emanation of consciousness, but not just human thoughts. Before I go into the other consciousnesses that may also be involved, I want to finish this section on coordinate points. For now, these other consciousnesses are something to be kept in mind. Also, how we perceive the universe in the first place must be added into the equation. When we dig into these other consciousnesses, we will be digging into the quantum level. For that matter, the coordinate points themselves seems to be quantum, in that there are points beyond subatomic particles. To finish with these coordinate points for now, here are a few more statements. Seth Speaks, Session 525. Quote, these coordinate points themselves activate the behavior of atoms and molecules as, say for example, the sun aids the growth of plants. The coordinates activate the generating behavior of atoms and molecules, and greatly encourage their cooperative ability, their tendency to swarm, so to speak, into organizations and structured groupings. The coordinate points magnify or intensify the behavior, the latent spontaneity inherent within the propelling what is not yet physical into physical form. Break. I want it known, however, that thoughts and emotions are formed into physical matter by very definite methods and through the laws quite valid, though they may be presently unknown. Break. They allow you to materialize certain subjective experience into three-dimensional reality. Before I leave the subject, however, let me remind you that these emanations in varying degree rise from all consciousnesses, not simply your own. End quote. Within this last quotation, we see a different property of coordinate points, and that is their effect on already present atoms and molecules. In this respect, they do not create the matter, but aid in its formation. To go back to our example of creating our blue ball, we would find that as we made it, the pieces would fall together much easier, faster, and the duration of our ball would be longer. But the main emphasis is that the ball would have the essence of what we were trying to create, that is, the metaphysical counterpart of the cause of what it is, to use some of Aristotle's ideas. There is another factor that science has been studying in one way or another for some time. That is the ability to affect matter by the mind in terms of movement, and is most commonly called telekinesis. There have been several documented experiments in this area, and I will be using one by the Princeton Engineering Department. This study was reported by G. John and Brendo J. Dunn in the book Margins of Reality. The experiment was to influence a random number generating machine by the power of attention. The computer produced ones or zeros in a random order. In the long run, the same number of each should be produced, but the output was tilted by desiring it with remarkable success. The deviations in order of 18%. If we apply this on the smallest level of probabilities happening over a period of time, we can see some changes within the probable aspects of reality. This can be the basis for much of our reality on the unconscious level. This chapter has covered some of the building blocks of the universe in the sense that we think of it as physical matter. But what else is responsible for our universe the way it exists? Certainly we have energy waves as light, without which we could not perceive our universe the way that we do. These are closely related to electromagnetic fields. Then there is gravity, that is the attraction of all matter to all other matter. Yet, even this is not all our universe is composed of, for if we, or life, were not here it would not be perceived. Then putting us in the picture, we have to add consciousness as well as an ingredient in our universe. Consequently, allow us now to turn our attention to these metaphysical components, because consciousness is not a physical thing.